All hail Shadow.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of the Sonic Movie Show. My name is Ethan, and with me here, as always, is Devin. How's it going?
This is the distant future, far removed from our own timeline.
Sonic '06. Someone says that.
Nope, Shadow the Hedgehog says that at some point.
Really?
It doesn't say when, it just said he said it, though. On Wiki quote.
In the Shadow the
Uh,
Hedgehog game?
it just says Shadow the Hedgehog has said that.
Oh, so he says that in Sonic '06. Guarantee he says that to Rouge when they land.
Okay.
When he says that.
Oh, no, yeah,
That's my
because the
prediction.
quote before is Rouge, you saved me. Which, hasn't she saved us all?
Yes, that's right. Devin, you and I have played a video game or two under the banner of Sonic the Hedgehog, have we not?
I've heard of him, I think. Sounds
Yeah.
familiar.
We've done some on this channel here, some big deep dives, and talked about our thoughts on new releases. And with the upcoming Sonic X Shadow Generations video game and releasing on all the consoles and PC, I wanted to have this discussion about what we think next year's big Sonic game is. I brought up
2025.
yes, oh, man. I thought it's funny you say that as next year, and I'm like, no, that's 2 years from now. Not that it's
No.
2023. I know it's 24, but 25, a quarter into this century,
I mean, we should add like a
feels
point five. Like, can we just add another 6 months?
right. Just change up the calendar. So it's like when people do like version updates,
I mean, we've been doing it for
2024.1.
2,000 years. Can we just change it up a little bit just to see
Exactly.
how it. We can always change it back. We could always change it back. You know what I'm saying? Like, we could. I think something we should look into.
We should definitely do that. 2024.1 is next year. And then 2024.2, just to
Yeah.
avoid. But yeah, so I brought up a list of all the Sonic games that released in this decade so far. So from essentially when the movie came out and onwards. And once a year, there is a big console and PC Sonic release. There's a lot of smattering of mobile games. But for the most part, it's like one a year. So we have in 2021 Sonic Colors Ultimate, a
Oh, yeah.
remaster, but a from the ground up because it was in a new engine and they had to kind of redo a bunch of stuff. Sonic the Hedgehog game, bringing back a kind of lost Sonic game in a sense. You can't play it on modern platforms. And 2022 obviously was Sonic Frontiers, but that was 2 years ago soon. It feels like I played that yesterday.
It does. That's crazy.
Yeah, especially about the time this goes up, probably is close to the actual anniversary of it as well.
'Cause I think
Yeah,
it
it was November 8th. It's not that
Yes,
close
that's
to when
right. It
it
was
comes
my
out.
brother's birthday. I remember now. And
And you
we.
spent it with the blue blur.
Blue Blur. Yep. My other
Yeah,
brother.
exactly. From a porcupined or hedgehogged mother. Yeah, so that was 2022. And then I also had Sonic Origins as well, which was a collection, right? And then next year, we update the collection, Sonic Origins Plus. So it has all of the Game Gear stuff, and they're like okay ports or whatever. But 2023's main big thing, Sonic Superstars, a game we
Which
gave our
we.
impressions of.
Did we?
We did an early impressions episode on it.
Okay, that counts. I mean, the final boss sucks. We don't even need to do a whole episode anymore. I know we both.
Yeah,
You got
it's too late at this point.
there.
Um,
Yeah.
I
I'll
want
just
to
say
platinum the
this.
game. Maybe we'll stream that at some point. But
Yeah, I at least want to see you run through the second final boss when you do the because you have to go through it again
I'm on the second playthrough, and I'm like,
with
wow, I didn't
whatever the
realize
other
I'd be playing
character's
the
name
whole
was.
game again. Okay.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, Superstars, an okay game, but we'll
but yeah, that
maybe
last
talk
one. Then
about
there's
that
an
more.
actual final one, and I just said, "Fuck this! I'm not playing this game again." So
Yeah.
too hard.
And I remember when I beat the final boss on that first playthrough of Sonic, I'm like, I beat it. And you're like, no. I'm like,
No,
no.
you
I got
you
mad.
didn't get to the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. And now this year we have Sonic X Shadow Generations as our big, console game. I mean, it's on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and technically 7 platforms, all at once. It's their big one, and it's another Origin or Sonic Colors Ultimate style kind of thing, where it's like, yes, it's a remaster, although the Sonic Generation stuff, they never claimed that to be a remaster anywhere. I think it is just a straight port in 4K 60 on your PlayStation 5 and your high-end
Yeah.
PC graphics card. But a bunch of new content featuring Shadow. I don't think it's going to be that significant. But still, new is new, and that's interesting. So it's a new video game. So that's
And they
our
are
big
delisting
2024 game.
And they are delisting the original Sonic
Yes.
generations.
But they're going to leave
so
it up if you buy a bundle of classic Sonic stuff on Steam, which is fair because, there's a lot of mods and stuff. And people were complaining about stuff being lost. And, hey, at least it's still going to be there to a degree. I looked at that bundle and I'm like, hey, I already own pretty much everything on here on Steam. There's like a couple Sonic things I don't own on Steam. But I wanted to ask you, Devin, as the expert, what kind of game do you think will be the big, on all consoles Sonic game next year? Because yes, we have Sonic Rumble, which is a mobile game coming out this winter by Rovio, no less. That's their Fall Guys style compete.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I want to try that actually. If I remember.
And we had Sonic Dream Team last year. That's stuck on Apple platforms because that could easily be a great Switch game. Excuse me, or on PlayStation, obviously, or PC. But it's stuck on like an Apple Arcade style thing for a few years, and hey, that looks like that could be fun. I want to give it a whirl. But I'm not talking about those. We're talking about the one you're going to play on a PlayStation 5, an Xbox Series X, or on your 4090. That you have 5 of them in your computer. So, what do you think the next big one is going to kind of be? We don't need to get into specifics, but do you think it's going to be another kind of remaster port? Do you think we're going to get another big game? What do you think?
I think, considering Sonic Frontiers took, to our knowledge, maybe 3 years to make. That was, making a new engine and basically a whole new type of Sonic game that we haven't seen before. And that it was also a very successful one. We've said that there's going to be either calling it Sonic Frontiers 2, whether it's a direct sequel, or it'll be in the same open zone strand game as, I like adding random...
Like continuing the idea.
Continuing the idea. Whether it's called Sonic Frontiers or, like I said, not a direct sequel, but continuing the idea. I think that'll be it next year because they already have the engine made and have all like the what to me is the most time constraining part of game development, right? At least my understanding of it is that. Not saying it's going to be still a cakewalk, but I'm assuming as soon as that one got successful, that I know they made Sonic X Shadow Generations, but they were already probably working on that when Sonic Frontiers came out because they know the movie Sonic Movie 3 is coming out this year too, and I think they're trying to tie with that. I think Sonic. I think we'll get a Sonic. I'm blanking on the name off. So you just
Frontiers.
Literally just said it. Frontiers. I had Generations like in my head, like popping.
A lot of their names are like very like vaguely large concepts, because you gotta be cool.
But my brain was getting distracted by just like the equivalent of like a Las Vegas like all light sign saying Generations. It's Generations, Devin. No, it's not. It's wrong, brain. Yeah, Frontiers. I think we'll get a Sonic Frontiers 2 next fall. I kind of wish we weren't always getting these every fall, or winter, holiday.
Season. Yeah.
But I get it. That's my prediction. I'm not gonna like put money on the line or anything, but I would say it would make sense to me.
We could do a bet.
The other only thing I can think of is you remaster one of the like adventure games, but I just feel like I think they'd rather allocate the resources on something that did so well and was well received for the most part versus what would be like a fan
obviously Sonic
kind of
team
thing.
Is still working on the next big Sonic game, so they're it's whether or not that's done right. Here's my thing. When I pitch this, I'm like, okay, I don't think Sonic Frontiers is going to be next year. I think it's going to be the year after. Because, I think it was actually, maybe 5 years in between Sonic Forces and Frontiers. But you have a lot of time spent on prototyping and figuring out what you want to do. And then, it might have been actual 3 years of real development on an idea, executing it, fleshing out this, no, scrap it, try this now, that type of stuff. And so yes, the timetable will be shorter than 5 years for sure. I can see 3 years because it's like, hey, we're not done yet. Because I can see them walking away from Frontiers being like, okay, there's a lot of stuff we could have done better, or we have a lot of ideas that we had, but we gotta finish what we have. We can't start over, save that for the next one. What if we did this idea better? What if, like, this idea, this is what we wanted it to be, and how we got there was not quite the best. What if we still have that goal and we approach it differently? What would that be like? I can see some of those conversations, keeping it a 3-year cycle. That's what has me saying it's a 2026 thing, and next year might be something different. However, what I can also see is Sega going, cool, that game sold a lot. Do another one now, and you can do it quicker. Let's have it be out in 3 years' time from the time that game came out, which is 2022, yeah. Remember, 3 years' time from that would be next year. I can see Sega being like, okay, cool, now let's speed it up. Let's start cranking these a little bit more, because back in the day, they were making big Sonic games every year. There was a short period of time where it was a big Sonic game every year, and quality upped and down, but it was still like, you have the Hedgehog engine, you can make a few of these now in a row relatively quickly. I can see them doing the same thing with this updated Hedgehog engine that is an open world style rendering aspect, and hopefully the pop-in is not tied to what the Switch's limitations are for everyone. And it's still insane to me that they never patched that, to my knowledge, on everyone. Like, people had to mod that on PC to be like, just expand it out. But anyway, there's that. So I can see going back and forth, but to be realistic, games get delayed all the time. They don't want to ruin the Sonic brand again by having a bad game be synonymous with quality. Because honestly, yes, if we look at everything here, Sonic Colors was one of the good Sonic games that fans will talk about from that era. Unleashed was okay. Colors was good. Generations was good. Lost World was, it's okay. Colors are one of the good ones. We get a remaster of that. Cool. Frontiers, you love it or you don't, but you cannot deny that they tried something new, and that in and of itself has good stuff in it. So that's not a bad game.
I mean,
we are on the record saying...
I was going to say,
that
we
we're
know
on the
what
record
it
saying it's
truly
the best
is.
one.
It's the best one of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, like, no one can earnestly walk away from being like, that was shit, that was awful, unless you're like 12. Maybe you are if you're watching that. Everyone grows up. I had the same similar
I'm
types of
13,
opinions
okay?
Yeah. I'm 9. I'm just like you children. And we have Superstars, which was last year, which was serviceable. It's, if you're going at it from the classic Sonic angle, hey, there's a lot of fun to be had here. I think the animations are great. The T-Lope soundtrack section, the songs, the contributions he made to the soundtrack, I think are excellent. Some of the gameplay is neat. It has some issues, but like, it's not Sonic 06, Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic Heroes to an extent. It's not one of the ones where or it's not the Werehog. It's not like people are like, oh, yep, that's bad Sonic again. We haven't dipped too far. And there are a lot of people who will probably say, hey, that game was really great. And I would like to lean closer to that than bad. And Sonic X Shadow Generations, well, it's a remaster of one of the good ones, plus stuff people are interested in. Who knows if the Shadow gameplay is executed very well. We'll find out, this October.
Still, to me, I still think most of the decision was just the fact that
the movie
and Shadow hasn't been playable in a game in a hot minute. So
right, since Forces, but for being honest, since 06.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So yes, so here's the thing. Like, they don't want to rush out a Frontiers 2 or the sequel to the open zone concept and have it be bad. I can see Sega, if they're like, hey, have it be, 2025. But if it's not going to look great, if it's not going to end up being a good game, I think they'll be like, no, push it. So realistically, I'm going to say 2026 for that game. But then
I'll say though that like with the idea of I'm gonna kind of go against Sega, the corporation, the decision makers, because I feel like Sonic Frontiers, like the whole preview for that game was not well received.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
we were, and so I don't think they care too much about it being necessarily like. Because I think one thing with Sonic Frontiers that I think people did critique was, it wasn't like polished in the graphical or visual sense. I thought the mechanics worked great for the most part. Like I never really encountered a traditional Sonic the Hedgehog glitch, and to us, that's why I think that game we would say is one of the best of all time, because it, if not we say it's the best, but one of the best because it finally executed how Sonic's supposed to work without it.
It's weird. You give him a little bit of breathing room, and all of a sudden he's not clipping through the walls and falling into chaos. Yeah,
or running into enemies if you're going in a 2D sense. That actually felt like, okay, I am Sonic. I'm in control of Sonic. There was never a time where I'm like really like yeah, do I miss time a jump or something? Of course, but it's a
far more forgiving video game than Sonic games prior. Yeah.
Other Sonic games where it's like, nope, you have no lives left and you got to start over. Because you fell down the hole that you couldn't have predicted, or you clipped because the camera changed in the last second, you fall somewhere. So I'll say that, like, I get what you're saying with Sega, but I'll say, like, to kind of go with the historical record, I think Sega, I don't know if Sega is, yes, they can fix some things visually and whatnot, but I don't think they're, like, really trying to, like, go for, like, the most beautiful looking game either. I think they're okay with it being, it is what is it is, as long as it's fun, which is what we look for, to be fair.
Be on the Switch. I don't think next year's game is a Switch 2 leaving Switch behind. I think it'll be on both. So there's a floor there still, right? And like, when you have, that would be like, Jesus, then like 8 platforms that the game would be on, because if it's on Switch, why are you not putting it on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One? Don't limit your audience. Sonic has a floor on their sales. Even the worst Sonic games sold pretty great. Enough to certainly keep a franchise going, let alone a mascot to like exist still, right? And so then, they're not going to like go out of their way to do an entirely different rendering path and like make different assets, extremely higher quality assets for a PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, when they could be like, well, the game runs 4K 60 on your platform, so that's awesome, right? Like I keep pushing, like, that game could have been 120 on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, like the frame rate. They could have done that. And there's a lot of small games where I'm like, why the hell is this not 120 frames per second? This could easily do it. But it's a list of priorities, who wants to check some boxes, and it's not checking some boxes, and there you go. Like do they want to spend the effort? What's the market on people that have 120 hertz televisions, and does it matter?
I guess I'll say this.
But it's one of those things where it's like, cool, if you're going to have a game scale all the way down to Switch still, like a game like this, just you need to make sure that those higher end platforms don't feel like a ripoff on like the quality if you're going to charge as much, I guess is kind of my point. Like, I think some fans are like that. Sega doesn't give a shit. Like, they know it's going to sell regardless. But that's just my kind of disappointment factor on some of that stuff. I don't know.
One thing I just thought of that I don't think we've really thought that could happen, because we're complaining about, I stop using the word complaining, it makes it seem like it's more disingenuous than what it is, but we were just discussing how some of the negatives of Sonic Frontiers is the ranges from Switch to PlayStation, how you have to have a floor. I'm not saying, I don't think this will happen. I guess this would be like a hot prediction, a very bold prediction, but Sega could maybe do pull a Naughty Dog and do a remake of Sonic Frontiers in a 120 FPS with better graphics. Pull a Last of Us Part 1 situation.
Interesting. And
then have that be 2020, 2025, and then you can do a Sonic Frontiers 2 years from now, because you're still working on it, but you can just maybe even have another company come in and just
Your deluxe edition. Yeah.
deluxe it up a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, with
So that's an option.
some new content just to make it seem like it's worth dipping into for
The
people on the
lighting is a
fence.
little bit better, or there's more. Maybe there's another side character for
Yeah, they could, because
replayability reasons, but maybe you
I
could be
look
Shadow. You could do size. Just do Sonic.
yeah, and that would
X
only be on
Shadow
PlayStation 5,
Frontiers.
Xbox Series, S and X, and
Yeah,
PC.
yeah.
And it would be something where, like, my impression of this new iteration of the Hedgehog engine that was used in Sonic Frontiers, and obviously the gameplay systems that they had built for it, was almost akin to making a game on new consoles for the first time. Like, oh, PlayStation 3 is out, Xbox 360 is out. Like, we're making a game for that. And like, okay, cool. We learned some things. Now let's apply big changes to the next game. And then, okay, cool, we have some of that stuff. When the PlayStation 4 came out, you did see a lot of ports because backwards compatibility wasn't really there. It wasn't there for both of them. Xbox changed it a little bit, but how they did that's a little bit of a repackaging rather than your disc works. Instead, your Xbox 360 disc is a key, and then they download an x86 executable version of that game onto your console instead. It wasn't really backwards compatible in the same sense, but still, a lot of those companies are like, cool, let's do a remaster of one of our latest games on this new console to get a feel for how it is. That's how Last of Us's first remaster was. That was Naughty Dog's be like, cool, how are we doing this? Okay, apply this to Uncharted 4 now. I could see, theoretically, if they were to do major changes to this engine, be like, oh, actually, we have a lot more stuff we can do. We can really push this out. Do some sort of, like, it's crazy to say a remaster a game that would be 3 years old at the time, but still,
that's what it felt like with even they did remastered Last of Us Part 2 even what it felt like only 4 years, to be fair. Not even, because it came out in 2020. I remember because they delayed it 2 months because of COVID was really starting to hit, and I think they
came out this January, yeah. But that's a little bit different. That's a $10 upgrade, and it is basically just
I'm saying though they can still advertise it as a newish
thing. Right. Yes,
and then you can pay the difference.
Right.
But
yeah, I could see that to be like cool and like, hey, this is a tease at what we're going to be doing next. I could see that.
Maybe there's an added like built not DLC but basically a DLC to this deluxe edition that will tease what the second game's going to be about. You can throw Shadow in there again or whoever you want.
Something small but like enough to, again, people on the fence can hop over. I didn't really even mean to phrase it like that. But yes.
There's thousands of Sonic
potential
fans out there who need to go over this fence.
I am not entirely convinced that what we've kind of been seeing is the extent of kind of how they're doling out their teams and workload, and so to speak. Because obviously Sonic Team is working on the next big Sonic game. Also did Sonic X Shadow Generations. Like, that's just them, right? But like, yes, Sonic Superstars, Sonic Team was involved, but it was Arzest hired to do the game. Sonic Team designed the overall like game, so to speak, and Arzest was the ones doing the work. Fighting games used to be like that. Capcom didn't make a lot of their fighting games in the PS3 era. Another company they hired to do the actual grunt work did. They designed the characters, designed the systems. Now you make it happen, type of thing. That's what Arzest was with Sonic Superstars. So I can see that relationship happening still further. I still think a Sonic Adventure something will happen. I can see Sonic Team having the same relationship with a team doing that like they did with Sonic Superstars, where they're overseeing it. You know, Izuka is a producer, and he is overseeing the project, but there are other people making it. And it's just hey, let's check in. How's it working? Cool? Okay. Check in. How's it working? Cool? Okay. Change this. Here's some notes. I can see that. I can see something like that being next year's game, where it's not another, what PS3, Xbox 360 Sonic game can we port? I guess it'd be Unleashed. People aren't going to like the Werehog. It's $50. It's not full $70. It's fine. I can see that not being the case for next year's game, because Sonic X Shadow Generations already feels like that, even with its new content. I can feel somewhere in between where it's like a graphical remake of an older game, one that you're not just like putting in 4K and being like, this is fine enough, but an older game like a Sonic Adventure or a Heroes, and being like, cool, here is our new game for the consoles next year. I don't think it would be $70, but or even 60. I think it would be $50, but it would be like, hey, here is our third pillar. Yes, we will still have a 2D thing here or there. Like there isn't going to be a Sonic Mania 2 or anything like that ever, probably. But they still want that 2D Sonic is kind of like 2D Mario. There is an audience for that is slightly different than the audience that would only want a 3D Sonic game, and there's overlap between them, like us and general gamers. I can see them being like, we can do a third pillar. And like, if they want to have a big Sonic game every year, they're going to need to start leapfrogging with they're juggling their different balls in the air. There are major gaming franchises that are able to have one thing a year, not Call of Duty where it's like big tentpole release every year, or like what Assassin's Creed used to be, but like, and this is anytime recently, but back in the day there used to be a Kingdom Hearts thing every year. Smaller scale stuffs, remasters, big game comes out, becomes one of them. Or like there's Final Fantasy shit every single year of varying scales, big games, cool, an HD port, a remaster here or there, that type of stuff. Sonic wants to do that. They're going to have to start juggling. And I don't think that they can be like, they're going to run out of easy remasters to do. And Sonic Team's going to be like, well, I guess we're making a game every year now. So they're going to have to start juggling. What do you think? I rambled there. But what do you think about a possibility of a third pillar type of Sonic game? One that had already been in the works and could be next year. Maybe it started last year. You know what I mean? And would be coming out next year. What do you think about that idea? Do you think it's possible?
I mean, I feel like when there's enough money involved and resources involved, anything's possible. Good or bad quality is what maybe is made, but I think anything is possible theoretically. And usually they're pretty good about like leaks and stuff. I feel like we've never really seen too many like leaks. Like we didn't know if Sonic Frontiers was really coming, if I'm not mistaken, like until they shared it.
Still, they first teased it, yeah.
Yeah, I meant more of like, oh, they're doing this type of thing. Like, yeah, we probably knew a Sonic game was coming, but there was no like, there's a game called Sonic Frontiers that's going to leak. We had that reveal trailer that was really vague, I think earlier that year, and then we got more with that. I think it was Game Informer even was rest in peace again to Game Informer. I don't know. So it's just like
there was that comment that like, oh, it's going to be we're hoping it's as big of a change as when Adventure came out, which had us do that episode, be like, this is what we think we would want. Turns out they got 80% of that in Frontiers.
Well, I think that's the other thing is with the third pillar, like whether it's a remaster, which is what they kind of been doing. So I guess they could always meet that every year, and then by the time you get through all your games, you can do it all
cycle
over
back
again.
Through, I guess. But I feel like they don't want to blow their wad, so to speak, and like run out. I think they want to space this stuff out. It's funny, they haven't made too many games, like enough for them to do yearly re-releases. But like maybe let's take a step back here and be like, okay, maybe it's not a remaster or remake type of deal with an older Sonic game. What if it is just like there was this Sonic Dream Team that was made by Hardlight, which is one of Sega's mobile team type of studios, but that was its own weird third pillar thing. Smaller budget, smaller scale, smaller platforms. Yes, it's on Apple TV and you can play it on Mac, but that game was made for the iPhone and the iPad. That's its own kind of thing. What if there is a smaller scale, but for the consoles thing that is our third pillar next year?
I mean, I guess that'd be like the Sonic Fall Guys thing, though, wouldn't it be? Like, I feel like that's already coming out. Would they have time to make another thing for next year that's like that? Like that
Not
level?
necessarily like that, but like, I don't know, something what if we have our new take on what Sonic is, but it is a smaller thing?
Something
I don't know.
not
Hey,
like
remember
so
our
Sonic Frontiers
RPG episode? What if they were working on?
I feel like he would have.
Yeah,
I feel like he would have said it there. Like, yeah, I really want to work on an RPG that I'm working on. I feel like he would have mentioned that. So I don't think it's an RPG. I don't think it's out of the possibility, but if it is, I feel like. To also be fair, we had what was it last year? We had which I think we still need to play on stream at some point, which is the Sonic Murder Mystery. It could be that,
yeah.
But would they count that as terms of like, hey, this is gonna make us money? Like real
it was
money,
free.
like that was also free. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I want to learn more about like. I'm sure it's been said, and I just haven't looked. But like, why? Like what? Like,
Yeah.
okay, because like, was this
maybe it's them to test the
or an
waters
experiment to see
something?
Like,
Yeah,
because
to see
like
if they
they
wanna
have
do
the
a full
Sonic cartoons
fleshed out
do
thing.
well. I think the Sonic movies, obviously. What if they make some sort of non-game game in that universe? Like, okay, the type of kids who really love the Sonic, cartoons. What if we give them a game within that world? I know they made those Sonic Boom games, and that was a big media crossover thing initiative they tried. But still, like, what if a Sonic movie game is a visual novel, and but we're not depriving our audience of high octane Sonic gameplay because we're still making them. But like, maybe that was a test on something, or maybe that was just some people fucking around and being like, we got time. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like in this day and age, no one has time. But
yeah, I feel like it's tough to think about like in terms of what their output is. I mean, they could have increased their budget. They could have decreased their budget in the last fiscal year or two. I feel like that always is something that we won't really know about until later, how that affects things. But who knows? Maybe we'll get it could be something completely out of like something we haven't even talked about yet. Like it could be something out of the ordinary. Maybe there's a Knuckles game. They had the Knuckles TV show. Maybe they see enough of that. They do a Knuckles as your spin-off thing. Like it's still Sonic, but it's a 10-hour
oh my god,
game
that's how you freaking tease an
$30.
adventure thing. You have you take your Knuckles gameplay from those adventure games and you modernize that, and like, wow, look at how much this could be great. What if there was a game where all of this was 1/6 of it, and there's other types as well, because like adventure is a moment in time. I still think that game is one of the most important video games ever, because that was a Dreamcast launch game, and it was look at what the future of video games could be. Here's a smattering of futures. We don't need to make that type of game anymore, as much as fans would want that, and I would want it too, just for the sake of it. But like, you can make a Knuckles game and flesh that out. You know what I mean? It's possible.
I'm saying it could be like a 10-hour Knuckles game that's $20. You'd be like, oh, it's cheap enough so not maybe enough people would still buy it. You not necessarily even play it, but just like, oh, it's cheap, I'll buy it. I like Sonic. This looks interesting. And yeah, like you said, if you advertise it as like a pseudo Sonic adventure potential, even if you don't necessarily even promise that, like you could still maybe sell
it's
that.
It's another test, so to speak. Yeah.
So, I think there's a lot of possibilities. I don't know if I want to give them like a percentage of happening. Well, I guess I will. Sonic Frontiers 2 for me, I want to say is like maybe a 40%. I would say of happening. That's my like hunch. And then whether it's a remaster, what am I left with? Maybe like 20%. And now all the other ones we talked about, like I don't know how to split those up evenly, but sure, just for the sake of the conversation, even that out however you want. When I mean remaster, I also mean like remake, kind of like the Sonic X Shadow Generations.
I still think we can't rule out the potential of them somehow giving us the Genesis games again. Well, we made them in a new art style.
I know this week of us recording this episode, it was the Sega Genesis like 30-something anniversary or whatever.
Yeah, 35th, I think. Yeah.
So, I mean, they didn't time it for this, but like that, yeah, they could just do another freaking bundle of Sonic games. It's only on so-and-so platforms with so-and-so.
What if Sonic 1 was redone with stop-motion animation? And it's just the like
That'd be, I guess, interesting.
people always want that with Mario. Like, oh, look at the old 2D Mario art. What if they made a game that actually looked like that? But we'll see. We'll see. For my percentages, I can see Sonic Frontiers 2 or the successor to Sonic Frontiers, the next big Sonic game, continue, and we do firmly believe it will be continuing the Frontiers idea. It'd be a waste not to be honest. Keep more money that way.
Right.
I see that as a 30% chance. I can see another Sonic remaster in the vein of Sonic Colors Ultimate, maybe being another 40%. I think that's likely because I don't think they're going to be too upset by having 2 remasters in a row. I don't think they would want to if they could get away with it, but I don't see it, beyond the pale. I think that could be. I don't know if was it Squirrel. Who made Sonic Colors Ultimate? Blind Squirrel Games. I don't know what they're working on. I know they did the Mass Effect remaster trilogy, but maybe they got hired to do the same kind of idea in the Godot engine with Sonic a Lost World, the Wii U and it's on Steam, but do that one now. I can see that possibly have been in the works. That's a 30% for me. What do I got? I got 40% left. Cool. Sonic Adventure 2 remake. There we go. I'm kidding. I don't know. I can see a bunch of other weird.
What's the
possibility?
We didn't talk about this. What's the possibility they just don't do anything at all? Probably 0, but
that is possible. They say they want to have a big Sonic game every year. That doesn't mean that they're.
But
going
what if
to.
that Sonic Frontiers 2? They're like, listen, we wanted to come out this year, but we delayed it to early 2026 because we're really just putting the extra work in, or whatever equivalent of that, whatever thing they're working on. We wanted to give it to you this year, but we'd rather make it good for the fans, so it's not coming out till next holiday of 2026. I could see that being the reason why there's nothing. It could just be delays.
We never really entertained the idea
companies
of
want money, so
Sonic Superstars 2. It's been way too soon, but I don't know. I don't feel like that game would be that expensive or take that long to just do a dirty sequel to. If they really want to just milk that. But,
I hope not.
I don't know. I don't know how well. We need to look into how well it sold. It might have sold okay. Because if it sold really well, get it going. But who knows? At the very least, I think that Sonic X Shadow Generations will be a fun time. I have been paid by Sega to say that. No, I mean, it's more of a game that I already liked. I will say this is by the time this episode goes up, we're going to be closer to its release than the time we've recorded it. That's how time works. Sonic Generations was the first platinum trophy I ever got on PlayStation. It was my very first one. I am approaching
your last.
And Sonic Frontiers was my 101st platinum trophy. I'm approaching 200. I'm getting close. I think Sonic X Shadow Generations, unless it's stupid in its trophy list, I think that's going to be my 200th, and I think I want to do that on stream. I think we're going to be streaming that game. We'll see. But
I feel like that's how we should handle most of the games, because it's tough sometimes with our schedules I know for Superstars was one of the rare times when I actually got further than you did, but I think maybe just it would be I think keep both of us honest and for the fans too, because we always tried to want to do an episode proper, but it felt too rushed sometimes. I think if we do a stream of it for 4 or 5 hours, I feel like that's probably what you're gonna get for how we're running this ship.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Devin, thank you for sticking by. Thank you, audience, for sticking by as well. Sonic the Hedgehog, he's a crazy guy, and we have the movie coming out soon. Hopefully, you'll hear more of our thoughts on that on this very channel at Sonic Movie Show. Hopefully, you're watching on YouTube. If not, I'm sure you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Music, Audible, anywhere podcasts are. Like and subscribe. Please share this with your friends. We do a lot of video game movie reviews. Please check those out. So please hit the subscribe button and reach out to us on social media on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter at Sonic Movie Show. As we always like to end these episodes, our famous phrase, we say it every time, Sonic out.
Hedgehog out.
There we go.